is the Trades and Builders Business Show with Miles Primrose.
Welcome back to the Trades and Builders Business Show. I'm Miles Primrose, and as we all know, running a trades or building business can be a lot harder than a lot of people think. We have to focus on so many different things. One of the areas that can't stand still is your brand. We actually need to focus on continuous improvement with the branding side of things. So we've got Brad Gleeson here from Tradie Packs. Good morning, Brad.
Thanks, Miles. Thanks for having me again.
Second time here. So the reason you're here today is last time you told us all about what you do and how you help trades and builders, and you've been doing that for quite some time. Today what we want to talk about is what do trades and builders need to do to actually stay on top of things. So to me, one of the main questions I want to ask, and I believe this is very important for people to think about and to budget, is how often and when should people revisit the branding side of things?
Yeah, so I think like any good business, I don't think it's a date sort of related thing. It is more you should be reviewing your business in all facets on a monthly basis, whether it's budgets, it's targets, goals, that sort of thing. So your brand should become a part of that, and it should be what's working, what's not working, what can we do better. So in that sense, you should be reviewing it constantly, and then hopefully pushing it further each time.
So with the brand, with trades especially, how do you find the balance between actually making a brand look amazing and not too good?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to scare people away almost.
Yeah.
Where's the balance in that?
I guess with the balance of having a good brand is, for one, you need to be happy with your brand. So you need to be comfortable and you need to take pride in it. So by taking pride in it, you're actually going to be more proactive, I believe, on a sense that you can actually push it further. Where I feel if your brand isn't as strong or you're not as comfortable with it, you're more hesitant in that sense. So one, yes, you can look great, but you also got to be at a level where you're happy with it and you want to be able to push it out there for customers to see.
So you only work with trades and builders,
Yep.
and I'm pretty sure that's what you've done for how many years now?
So a lot longer, probably about 8 years, but as under the Tradie Packs sort of thing since 2012. So,
okay,
yeah.
so I suppose you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
What percentage of your clients come back to you and actually, so they've done some work with you, whether it's 6 months ago, 2 years ago,
Yep.
they come back to you and they say, okay, look, you got me from nothing to starting up.
Yep.
You've got the basics done. I'm ready to either improve what I've got, or I want to be an adult now in the brand side of things.
Yep.
What percentage of your clients actually do that?
So I guess, ideally if they've come in, we're already going to take them to another level to start with. But also this can sort of be broken into a couple of categories. There can be the rollout and what's suited to your budget at the time. So potentially we're going to get you to a point that's going to make you stand out and take you to that next level. But also we're aware that not every customer is ready to throw everything at it straight away. So potentially we can look at it where we can roll it out to suit your budget and needs at the time. But the percentage that do come back is quite high because we've given them an established brand, and now they're ready, like I said in the previous question, they've now got pride in it, they want to push it, they want to be proactive, so the percentage is quite high to come back and to elevate it and then push it even further from there.
So as far as when people come to you and they come back and they want to actually improve the work that you've already done, like when I look at that with, when I help trades and builders, people come through and they do like a 12-month program with me.
Yep.
And the next part is actually not so much them redoing the program, it's them actually going to the next level, which is about actually catching up once a month to actually get into a rhythm and a routine.
Yep.
So that's the next level from a mentoring perspective. But if you've created something amazing for them from a brand or an image, and they come back to you and they say, look, I want this to be better, they might not know what better is, but how do you improve on what you did a year ago? Like, how do you take a fresh look or a fresh perspective? Or
I guess with there's a couple of things you could look at this too. Is like there might be a trigger point. So a lot of customers, might say, "Hey, we need to do this," or "We've seen someone else do this." So there's one there is the trigger point, but it's also saying, "Okay, where are you lacking? Is it Potentially that on site you need you've got a couple of jobs that are in some locations now that really stand out. So you want some branding on your fencing and that sort of thing. Is it your vehicles on the road? Have you now got a bigger fleet? So you want to sort of establish a better look on the road. But then it's from an online point of view, what are we doing right? How can we educate our customers more? How can we empower our customers more? So it's looking at the spots that you might need a hand with and then pushing them to another level. We're always going to set you up with a strong brand to start with, but we can push it further from there if need be. So, yeah.
So somebody might have actually seen something else. It could have been a brand that's actually not within the building industry. Yep. So they could have seen something else that's inspired them, or maybe they like a lot, and they could say, look, what you've done is great, but for some reason I like this. It actually really represents where I'm going, or their personality, for example. So obviously they're going to give you they might have given you a photo or a link to look at, or that type of thing. Okay. So you go and do all that. So what are the responses you get back from people when you come and do a complete rebrand? What happens along the way?
Yeah, so I guess this is the part we love is the responses we get. It's always nice that when someone's come back and said, "Hey, love what you've done. We're so excited about it." We've had so many great comments from our customers, fellow businesses, people in local areas, that sort of thing. So that's always a great thing to hear. The other thing we do sort of hear a little bit too is most, the business owner is who we're dealing with on most cases is so invested in every part of the business. So to actually give them a fresh brand and something new to work with, actually we find sort of reignites a little bit of confidence in the brand and the business. So when they see something new, they're willing to push it. They're willing to push it out there harder into the space. So that's a nice feeling, because it's sort of, once the business owner's up and about it, then they want the team to come along for the ride. And so that's a good response, and it's always nice to hear that.
So when people come to you to get some work done, how many of them actually, after the initial, I suppose, scope of works, you could call it, leave it up to you or your team? Like they just leave it up to you and you can go and do your work, or do you get a percentage of people that actually hover over your shoulder in a sense? And how does that look?
No, so I guess this comes down to communication. It's how we gather the information. We do get that a lot, saying, "Hey, I'm not creative in any way. I want you guys to look after it." But in saying that, we need to communicate, what direction you're after, what sort of inspires you. Then we can then generate ideas and concepts around that. Yes, we'll throw our creative at it, but we also don't want to go in at a sense where we completely got no idea, and then the customer says, "Hey, this is what I was thinking." So ideally, in the information we collect in the brief, the chat we have, we really want to get an understanding of where you're heading, who your competitors are, and that way we can be more accurate and give you a better brand to start with.
So with the actual rebranding process, so we're talking about somebody's already come to you. It might be 6 months later, 2 years later, whatever the case may be. How long would the rebranding process take for somebody? Just say I come to you and I say to you, "Look, what you've done for me to date is great, but for some reason I want to make the image of my business look a little bit sharper. I want it to look a little bit more elite, for example, because of the people I'm targeting. And I haven't got any stationery done. I need to look at the stationery, electronic forms. And I think it's about time we got our uniforms re-looked at, because they're looking a bit last decade, for example. How long am I looking at to sort of get all that sorted out?
Okay, so from a timing sense, it does start with the initial consultation. With a rebrand or even freshening up an image, we need to communicate how far you want to take it. Is it something on tweaking your logo? Is it something you want to do completely fresh? So we need to communicate those items first. If we need to adjust the logo, are we holding, the original values to it? Are we modernising it? That sort of thing. So once that initial sort of rebrand or update is done, then we can roll it out. So that can be a sort of a week to 2 week process. But once that's established, that's the harder part done. We can then roll it out in any sense that you need. So if it is then updating the workwear, if it is doing the vehicle graphics, it is doing the digital components, that's sort of suited to each business and their needs. So in regards to that timing, it's just relevant to what's required from there. But for us, the important part is getting the brand strong and established, and then rolling it out is the easier component, and then we can work to the customer's timing and requirements then. So.
And look, we've got some videos that you've given us, so we're going to actually play those videos, and when we go through these, if you could just tell us a little bit about each one.
Yep, okay. Cool. Okay, so with this Aquatech one, this is a full freshen up of an original brand. So we love this one because we've sold some of the same values to it, but given it a very modern look across the board, updating your signage, the online presence. So yeah, this one's just a really clean rebrand that we believe is super modern, and the customer was stoked with it. Quality time. So this is a perfect example of an old logo versus a new one. They love the idea of the Q was a really strong element to it. So we wanted to modernise that. We gave it a little bit of a building feel, but still something modern. Really modern text, and that again, they're only new in the refresh, but it's rolled out well. So yeah. Aztec, so this Stanford Build Co, another guy, Brad, he was coming from a chippy to become a builder, and had a really good idea of what he wanted. So this one's really cool because I love the pride that Brad takes in his brand, across his signage on site, the way he's got his team fitted out. We just love the way that someone's taken really good pride in their image, and are so comfortable in it, and once that happens, you're willing to splash it everywhere, and it looks great. So yeah.
Excellent. Right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, you're going to take us through. I suppose, do you ever get clients that actually try to cram too much information into the concept? So
we can discuss that.
We're on the Trades and Builders Business Show. My name's Miles Primrose. We'll be back with you very soon.
This is Ticker.
Ticker. This is the Trades and Builders Business Show with Miles Primrose.
Welcome back to the Trades and Builders Business Show. My name is Miles Primrose and we're here with Brad Gleeson from Tradie Packs. G'day, Brad.
Hey, Miles.
So, carrying on from what we spoke about before, so we're talking about rebranding your current brand. And one of the things I want to ask is, and look, I think I've been guilty of this with you late last year, but do you ever get clients that actually try to cram or give you too much information?
Yeah, we do. But this again is a communication and an educational thing.
Yep.
So a lot of people off the top believe that their logo needs to include it all, which is not the case. So what we'd like to do is in the initial brief, get an understanding. If this is something that's brought up or we can see, we highlight this with the customer. You don't need to have, a really long slogan in there, a set of services, all that sort of stuff. Once your logo is, strong and it's easy to distinguish, then those other elements can be added into the branding process. So then it can become that comes into the stationery, that becomes into your messaging, your content, that sort of thing. So it's all about, yes, we can fit the information in, but it doesn't need to become part of the logo at the initial part. It can be established through the brand and through the process. So, yeah.
Okay, so can you take us through the steps to your rebranding and what are the different options, I suppose, you offer people if they're going to look at rebranding?
Yeah, so I guess the steps always starts with an initial consultation. This is where we want to, get an understanding of the business, the background, where you're heading, that sort of thing. We then want to put forward our proposals on what we believe could be beneficial to you. Also whether it suits your budget at the time, but it wants to be something that can be a bit of both. So everything that you want, but potentially things that we think you may need, and can go from there. Once a proposal is, sent and accepted, that allows us to then, get started on the branding process. So then we're going to go through the whole thing with the logo, spend the time on that. In a rebrand, are the elements a little bit different to a startup? Are we trying to do more, trying to hold some values to the original stuff? So once that process is started, we can go from there. Those options that are always put forward in the initial consultation or proposal to say, okay, yes, it suits one of our packages, or do we need to do something custom for you? Do you require, some content now because you're at another level, and you need to be clear with your messaging too there. So we can look at both the branding, the wording, and tie all the elements together.
And what would be some of the not negotiables when somebody's going to come and see you with a rebrand, I suppose? Yeah,
so I guess one is understanding your own business first. So, knowing where you're going, where do you want to be in the next 10 years, that sort of thing. Has something changed? Like, is your clientele, changed? Are you now targeting a high-end market? So you need to get those established first, because that allows us to then, gather the right info to put forward, and then we can give you a clear direction. The other thing would be is, what trigger points have got you here? Is it that you've been embarrassed with something, or a customer's asked for something like a capability statement, and you haven't had one to show, so you felt sort of a little bit behind in the process? So I guess understanding the trigger points for where and what got you here. And then also would be, thinking bigger. So, next time you're doing this, or the time you're doing it now, is think big. So think 10 years. Think, what's your staff going to look like? What's the premises going to look like? How many people are going to be on the team? So, thinking along those lines as well. I guess the other one is, as I mentioned, is the new brand going to align with the contracts you're seeking? So that's a big thing also. And then also being consistent. This time around, if you get the chance to rebrand, well, it should allow you then to be consistent from the get-go. So one of the things we see is people have got an established brand, but it tends to go off in a few different directions, and there's no clear consistency that ties it all together. So this time, having a set style guide, brand guidelines, some standards around how you want to produce it and show it going forward. So, yeah.
So can you, some people might not know what a style guide is. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so once the logo has been finalised and established, A style guide is to give you an understanding of the elements that are around your brand. So this can be, as simple as the colours, the spot colours or PMS colours
so
used.
That's the Y2Z47.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So also like the fonts and the typography used. Also, if there's any elements around, spacing or on particular colour backgrounds, this is where it allows us to, you and to be consistent. So if we're not doing the whole process or you outsource an element out elsewhere, you can produce that style guide and say, hey, this is my font, these are my colours. So then even if it's not the same designer or agency doing it, you can be consistent. And if they stand by that, then there's no reason why it all shouldn't be the same.
To me, and look, I know that when I've had a radio station in the past come to me and present me with a presentation on how they can actually get more exposure for my business, and they've got my brand, and they've actually stretched my logo and the words and everything. I was livid. And I said to them, I'm not even going to talk to you. And I said, come back if you're going to do this. I said, I don't even give you permission to use this. I said, if you're going to present to me, come back and actually show it to me in the format it's supposed to be shown.
Correct.
And I don't know, maybe I'm taking it a little bit too far, but I think it's you need that so that you can actually get consistency. Doesn't matter whether you're in online or in print or whatever. It's really important to have that these days. So the other thing I was going to ask you, with you helping trades and builders, like you've helped hundreds of them, I come to you, I've now got my own building business, but there's a lot of guys out there wearing blue uniforms, and there's blue and green, and there's a lot of things out there which are similar. How are you going to help me to make sure that I'm not in this sea of sameness?
Yeah, that is a good question. This is the one where it's understanding branding, I guess, across the board and industry. So knowing, what's working, what goes together, that sort of thing. But it's also the customer, or not going with a preconceived idea. We have a lot of people who have seen, John down the road's got this, so I feel that needs to be in. You need to, one, communicate it so we can understand how we can give them something unique. We also will throw out, I guess, the cliches that come with a lot of industries. We a lot of people might be, with a water drop, a roof, a hammer, that sort of thing. Those things we don't even bring up in the process. We want to give you
the plumber with the plunger.
Yeah, the plunger or the wrench. So a lot of the time it's understanding that, and also in the brief, if that's brought up, say, well, why? This is the way we should go. This is how we can give you something unique. This is how we can give you something different. So you do look different from the plumber in the same suburb or whatever, and you stand out more than them because you haven't sort of just tied yourself to a particular preconceived idea of what an industry logo or that should look like. So yeah.
Okay, so I've only got time for a couple more questions, but how will rebranding actually attract more clients?
I guess one of the big ones is brand attraction. So when you've got something fresh and new, people take notice. So that's going to be number one. You're also going to be able to then establish that you've got the right tone of voice going forward. You've got a clear direction, and then that way it's going to flow on with all your items. It's going to allow you, again, I touched on this, it allows you to become more proactive. So by having that new brand or rebrand, you're going to be proactive. You want to push it. You want to get it out there. So I feel in that sense, by you actually being proactive, you're attracting customers yourself, because you're actively out there in the marketplace or online or on the road, pushing that new brand. So, yeah.
And look, I suppose if people say, they talk about a strategic rebranding process.
Yep.
I know we might have sort of covered this before, but what are they really talking about when they talk about a strategic rebranding process?
Yeah, so I guess the strategic part is touching on those elements that I've mentioned, where it's understanding you as a business, understanding the competitors, where are you situated in the market, who are your clientele now, who are your clientele in 5 years, 10 years, that sort of thing. So it's working through those elements to then establish something that suits your needs, but also that looks relevant in 10 years' time. You don't want to do something that looks aged in 2 years. So the strategic part is bringing all those elements into it, and then establishing the brand consistently across the board for you.
Okay, so my last question for the day is how much time and money should somebody actually plan for when they come to see you?
Yeah, so I guess a few elements, as we do have packs at either end of the scale if it's a startup. So you can start as little as a $1,500 pack that can sort of be established within a 2 week, sort of 1 to 2 week period. But we've also got packs that range up to sort of the sort of $6,000 and above, and that's when we're bringing in these strategic elements to it. We're really dialing it in, the consultation. We're looking at the brand in a whole, so we're looking at the content, the messaging, how does that present on site, on the road, and online. So so that we have something for everyone, but we can also customize anything too. It's quite common that we have customers come to us and need a number of elements, but have already got some established. So in that case, that's all about the initial consultation, working it out. Does one of our packs suit you, or does half our pack suit you, and we add particular items that suit your needs to get started. So yeah.
All right, well, thanks for your time and
No worries.
taking us through the process on rebranding your business. You've been watching the Trades and Builders Business Show. My name is Miles Primrose, and I'll see you again Tuesday next week.
This is Ticker, your new source for news.